Hey, it is Circa tonight here on. Oh shit! Yes, I'm for 104.1 9:30. You got to start. 104.1 9:30 a.m. 104.1.
Well, for the people on YouTube, we're going to start this bad boy over. Coming down in 3.
Wait. Aren't you
when
just?
You see yourself again?
Yeah. Hey, it is Circa tonight here on 104.1 9:30 a.m. over in Bowling Green, Kentucky. Matt Brown, Stephen Andress. This is, as always, brought to you by SharpStack. And if you have not done so already, TNF Live, go over, take a look at SharpStack for free, 7 days, and then 25% off when you do decide to go in and go ahead and subscribe. Again, an invaluable tool, certainly something that you will like to put into your arsenal as you move into the offseason, into the other sports, and all, of course, as we roll back into football season next year. Stephen, our first week without real football in a hot minute. And I'm not going to count the Pro Bowl as real football. It's a flag football game that apparently Shedeur Sanders is going to play in. So I don't think it's a Pro Bowl really anymore when like the 31st ranked quarterback in the NFL is going to be getting reps out there. But you know, it does give us some time to kind of reflect on what happened over the course of the season, what happened last week, and look forward to not hundreds, guys, thousands of bets that are going to be available to you as we move into Super Sunday.
Can't wait. And 31st might be generous to Shedeur Sanders, but that's neither here nor there. Yeah, last week got weird, man. We had a blizzard breakout in the second half of that Denver-New England game. So congrats to anybody that backed Denver. I was very wrong about that one. Seattle felt pretty good about here. Bet them at open -1.5. They did get a little bit of special teams variance going their way with a muff punt, but they also kind of got a taunting penalty that kept the drive going for the Rams go against them. So I think the kind of weirdness in that game evened out, and I do feel like Seattle was probably the deserving winner of that game, Matt, even though the yards per play was pretty stark for the Rams in that one. I don't know how you felt about it, but I just felt like it was an uphill battle for the Rams to win a fourth game in 5 weeks on the road.
I actually think it was just a couple of plays that kind of kept them from winning. I mean, if you look, I mean, there were obviously the special teams gaffe, which was horrific and certainly changed the course of that game on the muff punt. Then you have Sean Payton's choice not to go for 2. I mean, there were all kinds of things that happened in that game. I said leading in that Sean Payton didn't have his fastball 2 weeks ago. I don't think he had it this past week either, with some of the stuff that went on, in-game stuff, management, all of that. I mean, the end of the first half to allow Seattle to get the ball back and then go score on you, another horrific gaffe in that game by this Rams team. And honestly, I think they kind of gave it away more than anything else. This is taking nothing away from Seattle, and I think Seattle goes in and wins, this game. A little sneak peek here with what I actually think happens in the game, but I think the Rams more kind of gave it to Seattle than it is Seattle went out and took it. Now, it was a fantastic performance by both quarterbacks in this game. Matthew Stafford completely balled out. Sam Darnold didn't pull a Sam Darnold. And honestly, that was the thing that you had to be nervous about if you were on Seattle in that game. You were waiting as the game kept getting closer, and the game would get close again, and the game get close again. You were worried, was Sam Darnold going to make that critical mistake? Was Sam Darnold going to put you behind the 8 ball? And that ended up not happening, and hats off to him. It's a really cool story, a guy that was left for dead, thrown onto the scrap heap, and now not only does he have a rejuvenation of his career up in Minnesota, but now is going to be heading to the Super Bowl after they choose a rookie, an unproven rookie over him, and he goes to Seattle. I mean, it's a pretty – if we're talking narratives, Stephen, I mean, this is a pretty fantastic narrative.
It is. And nobody is probably hating the Super Bowl more than the Minnesota Vikings right now, who went with JJ McCarthy instead of just keeping Sam Darnold. And it's awesome, man. I mean, it's the NFL and football in a lot of ways is just the ultimate meritocracy. If you can play, you're going to get on the field. And a lot of these quarterbacks don't get second chances these days if they wind up drafted in a spot that doesn't go well. And it's great to see Sam Darnold doing this. And from a betting perspective, this game was always going to be me backing the NFC Championship winner.
Yeah.
And I think the way the Patriots have looked across 3 playoff games now has only further cemented that for me as we kind of get into 2 weeks of handicapping this big one.
Yeah, as far as the Patriots and Broncos, really tough to pull a ton away from that game because we really only got one half of football. The second half was both of those teams just battling the elements and trying to survive. What we knew was going to be some snow turned into a full-on blizzard with wind, and visibility was bad. I mean, I know you could not have been able to tell on a lot of the broadcast because of the way these cameras are these days, but I actually had a couple of buddies who went up there to the game, Steven, and they were like, I was sitting on the 30-yard line 25 rows up, and I could hardly see what was going on out there on the field with the way that the snow was going and stuff. And so what we saw was no chances downfield, everything close to the line of scrimmage, ton of unsuccessful runs. And, I certainly the Patriots were not impressive in the first half anyway, when we did have at least normal conditions, but there was nothing to learn from the second half really at all.
No, there really wasn't. And honestly, the Patriots, in some ways, you can say, were fortunate to win that game because in the end, they needed Jarrett Stidham to throw a backwards pass, a backward shovel pass to get recovered and give them a short field to go and score a touchdown here. And that was turned out to be the difference in the game. So it's a third consecutive poor performance by the Patriots offense, even in that first half when there wasn't snow. And they have done nothing to kind of get rid of the stigma that a lot of their success from the regular season was from a soft schedule and a soft schedule of opposing defenses. So this is now 3 games against the Chargers defense, the Texans defense, and the Broncos defense. And last week I thought they'd be able to exploit that Broncos defense. They just didn't in the first half before all the snow came. And it's left me wondering, how on earth are they going to move the ball against the Seattle Seahawks defense?
And I mean, it's fair. It is. I mean, all of that is incredibly fair. And, if you look here, really, it's tough whenever we try to find paths in certain, in the way that teams might be able to be successful. But I mean, you look at this Seahawks defense and they only got lit up 3 times all season, twice by who is likely to be the MVP of the league, and then 1 game against Baker Mayfield and the Bucs that kind of played their best game of the year. But outside of that, I mean, Steven, this defense was just rock solid all year long, which has led us to them, as you pull up SharpStack right now, for those of you who are watching along with us, then you'll see, and it's led to the point where this is them favored by 4.5 or 5. And, we saw a look ahead where both teams were favored by 3.5. When I say both teams, being either Seattle or the Rams. And due to the performance that we saw, not only out of Seattle, but out of New England, this thing opens a full point higher, Steven. And I got to be honest, I don't really blame that. I mean, I think that this is every bit as a fair number, sitting at 4 and 4.5. And what we're going to have is 2 weeks of people trying to tell you that everybody needs to make content and everyone needs to make this a story. And everyone's going to try and tell you that this New England team, since they have 2 weeks to prepare, they're going to be able to scheme up all kinds of offense, and they're going to be able to do this, and they're going to be able to do that. And I trust Vrabel to this, that, and the other, and all of that. Well, the exact same thing applies to Seattle. They also have 2 weeks to prepare. They also have 2 weeks to understand the tendencies of Drake May. They also have 2 weeks to go in and figure out all the stuff that he does poorly and try to exploit that. And so while everyone wants to paint the rosy side of things, I think for the underdog as we lead into the Super Bowl, which, by the way, it's one of the very rare occurrences where you can actually get value on the money line on the favorite, because everybody wants to bet the money line on the dog leading into the Super Bowl. Really, the same narrative, Steven, can go on the other side to Seattle. They also have 2 weeks to prepare. They also have really good coaches. They also have really good players.
I'm glad you mentioned the money line angle, because that's the first bet I'm going to share on this week's show. Circa has the best available price in market on Seahawks money line right now. It's minus 210. I know that's a lot of juice, but hey, it's the last week of the season. I'm my winnings from earlier in the year, and comparing that to where
I can tell you why. Do you want to know why?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yesterday, here in Las Vegas, they took a $1.1 million bet on the Patriots.
Thank you to whoever did that.
Yes. So they took a $1.1 million money line bet on the New England Patriots here in Las Vegas. And so that is why you are getting that money line at Circa. So if you're in a Circa market, you are going to be able to get the best number on Seattle for at least a little bit until some of that balance is back out for them.
Yeah. Right now it is minus 210 at Circa, and the best available price anywhere else is minus 225, minus 230, minus 235 is really the prevailing money line price on Seattle. I bet that to win 1 unit already and feel really good about it. And I'm going to wait to reveal some more bets when it comes to side money line and total for our big Super Bowl show next week. But I think you're already gathering that I'm going to be a pretty big Seahawks supporter in this Super Bowl. I just want to kind of put an exclamation point onto the concerns I have with the Patriots offense, Matt. In the playoffs, their EPA mark, if you compared it to what teams did in the regular season, would rank 30th behind the Jets. Since 2021, it would have ranked 120th out of 128 offenses. This is those 3 playoff games against the Chargers, Texans, and the Broncos defenses. If you look at their success rate, for those that don't know what success rate is, it is measured by giving a successful play for getting at least half of the yards required for a first down on first down, 3/4 of the yards required for a first down on second down, and then you have to get all of the yards required for a first down on third or fourth down. So if it's 3rd and 2 and you only get 1 yard, it's not a successful play. You need to get the first down. So by that metric, the Patriots in the playoffs have a 36.2% success rate. That would have ranked 31st behind the Titans during the regular season. Since 2021, it would have ranked second to last in front of only the 2023 Jets, who trotted out Zach Wilson, Trevor Siemian, and Tim Boyle at quarterback. Now, listen, I understand that these are 3 games against 3 really tough defenses, and it's a small sample size. I get that. But they're playing the best defense in the NFL now in the Super Bowl. The Seattle Seahawks during the year were number 1 in the league by EPA per play allowed, and they're a very healthy defense. If you look since 2021, this Seahawks defense would have ranked 3rd by EPA per play allowed behind only the 2023 Browns and Ravens, and it was about equal to that 2022 conference champion 49ers defense that was coordinated by DeMeco Ryans. So this is not the Patriots getting some kind of break from a bad run of having to face good defenses in the playoffs, Matt. It might actually be the toughest one they've played yet in a 4-game span.
Yeah, the other thing that was incredibly interesting to me in what Seattle was able to do last game as well, where, they go out and despite the fact that the Rams had Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams and Kyron Williams and Matthew Stafford and all of that, they did hold true to what they do as a team. I mean, they ran nickel 69% of the time in that game. They ran dime 20.7% of the time. For people who are not really great at math, that is 90% of the time that they stayed in nickel and dime, which is what they did all season long. So they didn't try to get outside of their comfort zone against one of the offenses that was able to light them up over the course of the season. Now, listen, Stafford is Stafford, and Stafford had a fantastic game, and he was able to really move the ball on this defense and all of that, but still came up short, Steven. And we are talking about, listen, let's do a real, when we really look at this, we are talking night and day offenses between the Rams and the Pats, right? I mean, we are talking completely night and day. And so I think you're going to see this defense do the exact same thing that they did, but the Patriots are just not going to be able to capitalize like Matthew Stafford did because they just don't have the same personnel. They just don't have the same players. They just don't have the same juice that the Rams have on offense. And that's not a total knock on the Patriots. Not very many teams do. Like I said, go and look at the teams that actually had success against the Seattle defense over the course of the season. It's a very, very, very short list, but I don't think the Patriots are going to be adding their name to that.
Patriots are going to have a hard time being balanced on offense as well. They've already struggled most of the year to run the ball, and now they're facing the number 1 run stop defense in the league with a bullet who tend to be able to do it with only 4 up front. Their cheat code has been to adjust and to defend the pass, they can drop 7 into coverage. So, the fact that they can stop the run with 4 is just going to make it even tougher against an offense that has had trouble running the ball. So it's hard to find paths here for the Patriots to win my margin. Absolutely. That's going to be really hard. So if you're looking at Patriots alts, God bless you and Godspeed. But just to win this game or even cover the number is becoming difficult for me to find a path for the Patriots.
There are 45.5s, 46s, and 46.5s out there in the market from a total perspective. I mean, I think that this is a pretty clear deal for me, Steven. I mean, look, if New England is going to have any sort of success, I mean, given the offense that we've seen, I cannot imagine them winning any sort of high-scoring game, any sort of shootout. Like, that just does not seem feasible to me at all. I think if you like New England, you have to really, really love the under, and it plays where we talked about this with Seattle leading in this past game. We have seen this offense go MIA for spurts for a very long time, and it was frustrating when you had them in your betting account and whatever. And I think if you like New England, you got to be really loving, like I said, there's a 46.5 out there in the market. There's 46 at Circa. There's some 45.5, but I think you have to be looking towards an under, because if this thing plays high scoring, it's probably because Seattle's just lighting up New England's defense and not vice versa.
So let's talk about the total and also the derivative of the team totals here. Now, at Circa, the team totals are up. New England is at 21.5 with heavy juice on the under, minus 145. Seattle's team totals 25.5. minus 110 both ways here. You can also get in the market a New England under 20.5 at minus 125 juice. So my concern with betting the full game total under, Matt, is that there have been times this year where the game gets out of hand and Seattle wins by a large margin and they just cover a total by themselves and hit the over. That's a little bit of my concern. And we've seen Super Bowls like that where it's like, it's just, we're going to go for every fourth down 14 points and it doesn't matter anymore. And you start getting some free scores at the end of the game. So my only question is, I agree with you. The under would be the play for me, under 46.5, under 46, because that 47 is definitely not coming back, which is kind of a key-ish number in totals. The 47 is not coming back. The only question I have is Patriots under the team total maybe a better look here, when we know that Seattle has kind of won some blowout games? Let's just 30-17 is an over in this game. So that's my concern, really.
Yeah, no, I mean, I hear you for sure. I just, again, kind of like you said, though, I think that the flip side of that also is just, you don't have to win by margin. You don't have to whatever. Winning a Super Bowl is winning a Super Bowl is winning a Super Bowl. And it's probably the only time that I would actually ever advocate just winning the game and not trying to continue to stay aggressive and all of that, because it is the Super Bowl and it's the end of the year. So again, just trying to play devil's advocate to that, which is, okay, you get up by X amount, you see that their offense can't do anything at all. Does Kenneth Walker then just take over and start getting, a million carries in this thing?
Yeah. The other potential game script here, if it goes the way we both are kind of implying, is if the Patriots are up big at the half, and there was a lot of scoring in that first half to get to that point, well, now a second half under becomes very attractive, where they're throwing on the brakes like you're suggesting, which happens all the time, where, a 20.5 pops up for a second half total and they barely score any points because one offense is way up and they're just really worried about bleeding clock at that point. So in this scenario, I think I'd be more in line to wait for a potential live second half team total under situation.
So let's look at some other markets you can bet here. Obviously, one of the very most popular markets that will be bet here in the Super Bowl is Super Bowl MVP. And this is, of course, the favored quarterback is always going to be the short shot in a market like this. Again, we will be looking here on Circa tonight, brought to you by SharpStack, several different options here of ways that you can go about betting this game. Sam Darnold, your short shot, rightfully so. And Steven, I say this every single time that I do Super Bowl content, which is, if they can give it to the quarterback, they will give it to the quarterback. So the quarterback basically has to play his way out of getting the award. Now, we have seen some receivers get it here and there whenever the quarterback has very low totals, but basically all of the work went to one guy and all of that. But in a vacuum, these voters want to give it to a quarterback because he is the dude who is touching the ball on every single snap, and that is the most important position in all of sports. And so, again, I don't know if there is a world that exists for Seattle where the Seattle Seahawks win this game and Sam Darnold doesn't get it, outside of New England turns the ball over multiple times. It's not an offensive one game, it's a defensive one game. And some guy has 2 strip sacks. One of them he picked up and ran back for a touchdown, et cetera, et cetera. Like you can kind of paint these alternate scenarios, but again, very, very, very more likely than not, it just goes to Sam Darnold.
It's very fair, but I want to do a little exercise here that I think the viewers and listeners can also apply themselves going through the Super Bowl odds market. And, right now there's only 4 guys with odds shorter than 10-1, and then everybody else is 30-1 or longer. So the best available price in market on Sam Darnold, almost 2 weeks before the Super Bowl, is plus 130 on him to win MVP. So if we look at what we think, Circa's money line's a little off right now because they took that big Patriots bet. So if we say around minus 230 is the prevailing number on Seahawks money line, that's implying about a 70% chance that they win this game. So my first question to you, Matt, is in a scenario where the Seahawks win the Super Bowl, what percentage likelihood out of the 100% would you say that Sam Darnold is probably going to win MVP there? This is never 100, right? But what percentage would you give Darnold in this exercise?
9 times out of 10 in a Seattle win, Darnold gets it, because there's so, again, it's not out of the realm of possibility, but there's so few scenarios in which they don't score a touchdown at all, where it's, a defensive score, a kick return, and, a couple of field goals and all of that. Like, these are all things that within the range of outcomes, they just don't happen very often really at all. And honestly, I don't know if they're going to have a ton of success on the ground. This run defense for the Patriots has stepped up or something. And so
agreed.
I do think that this kind of goes on Sam Darnold's shoulder again, which again further leans this towards him.
Yeah, some things have changed here with, I think, it, in my opinion, gives Sam Darnold a higher percentage that I probably would have given him a week or 2 weeks ago. Number one is Zach Charbonnet being injured and only being Kenneth Walker. So that takes some of whatever that 100% pie is away from Charbonnet. The matchup is bad on the ground. It's a pass funnel defense for the Patriots. So I agree with that. I'm less likely to want Kenneth Walker. And I think the likelihood of him winning Super Bowl MVP is lower than it would have been in a different matchup. Also, fun fact, a running back hasn't won Super Bowl MVP since Terrell Davis when the Denver Broncos won it in the late 90s. It's been a very long time since a running back has won Super Bowl MVP. So now the percentage is up. So you went with a very aggressive number on Sam Darnold, 90% chance if the Seahawks win that it's him. So if we multiply 70% Seahawks money line with 90% Sam Darnold, we're getting a minus price for Sam Darnold to win MVP. So even if we're not as aggressive as Matt's 90% number, let's just say it's 70% chance that it's Sam Darnold if the Seahawks win the Super Bowl. You multiply those two together, and you're still getting about even money there. So I think regardless of where you are in the spectrum of what percentage of the pie of Seahawks players should go towards Sam Darnold for MVP, it seems like you and I are both landing on that plus 130 is a good price for him right now.
Yeah, and I mean, I didn't want to come in like shots fired on your money line bet on Seattle or anything like that, but like I would just rather bet Sam Darnold MVP than I would bet Seattle money line. I think that there's such a massive difference in the prices where you're getting plus 130 on Darnold and you're laying over $2 on Seattle. I mean, here's the deal. So Jackson Smith-Njigba is the only other dude on like that has a realistic chance of getting it over on Seattle side, in my personal opinion. Like I said, I don't think Kenneth Walker has a very good day against what has proven to be time and time again a very stout Patriots run defense. Jackson Smith-Njigba went 10, 153 and a touchdown this past week against the Rams, and it still would have gone to Darnold because he had 3 touchdowns and over 300 yards passing, right? And so it's like, is JSN going to have a better day than 153-1 in the Super Bowl? I mean, I don't know, man. I find that pretty hard to believe. And even if he does, it's still who's throwing in the ball. It's Darnold. Is it really going to be just JSN, or does he get some of these other dudes involved? Like, I think that there's just a very slim chance that it's anybody else on the offensive side. Like I said, I almost feel like there's a better chance of it being a defensive player than there is a different offensive player outside of Sam Darnold. Like, I if we get the 17-10 game in which they only score 1 offensive touchdown and it's a short field because of a turnover and the defense, scores the other touchdown and it's a field goal. I mean, like, I think that it's more likely to be a defensive dude than it is another offensive player.
I completely agree with all of that. And I would also argue that I don't think you're getting some kind of value on JSN to win Super Bowl MVP. Best available price in market right now is about plus 550 on JSN to win MVP. In order to get to that to be a fair price, you basically need to assign about 20% of the MVP likelihood for the Seahawks to JSN. Just checking my math here real quick, 70% chance to win the game, 20% chance that he wins Super Bowl MVP, and you're getting a fair price of about 6-1 on that. So if you believe, like Matt does, that he's far less than 20% to win MVP because Darnold's far more likely to do it, then you can't swallow this plus 550 price on JSN to win MVP, Matt.
And Steven, how about this? How about you just like get a better price for something that would probably have to happen anyway for him to win it? 2+ touchdowns for JSN is 6-1. So like you can still win that bet and him not win MVP. And like, as opposed to like for him to win MVP, he almost has to score 2 touchdowns. And so you're getting 6-1 for him to score 2+ touchdowns in the game. And then it's just over. As long as he scores 2 touchdowns, you won that bet. You don't have to worry about what voters decide to do with all of that, right? So it's like you're getting the 6-1 on him to score 2 or more touchdowns, and then it's over. Like, boom, you scored 2 touchdowns. I win that bet. I don't need some dude to write his name down on a ballot.
Yeah, enough with the voter shenanigans at that point. Just lock it in. It's a very great point. We are in a game where the catalog is bigger than any sporting event for the entire calendar year in the United States. So before you go and just bet something blindly because it appears to be a good price, go do what Matt just did and do that exercise where you're trying to put together some kind of same game parlay where if that happens, then he's likely to get it anyway. And is the price better? So well done by you on that for sure. But there was one example I found where doing that did not give me anywhere near the price I would get on this player to win Super Bowl MVP, though.
Okay.
So I want to go through that exercise.
Let's do it.
It is Seahawks tight end AJ Barner.
Okay.
He is as long as 175-1 to win Super Bowl MVP. Now, when I bet this, it's pizza money, guys. Like it's a little sprinkle there. I'll just bet a little bit.
There's a reason he's 175-1.
Correct. Like this is not some big bet, but it's a little sprinkle because I felt like those odds were wrong. I felt like he should have been less than 100-1. So again, we say 70% chance the Seahawks win the Super Bowl. But when I went in and did some of this same game parlay stuff and 2+ touchdown stuff, he's 22-1 to get 2+ touchdowns. So if we kind of take the probability of that and multiply it by the probability of Seahawks money line, you get about 2.6%, which is only 37-1. So you need some other stuff to happen there, probably, right? You probably need him to get some yards or some catches. So even if you think it's only a 1% chance that AJ Barner has those statistical outputs, that is fair odds for 99-1 for MVP. But the reason I think this is a good bet at 175-1 is because in this outlier situation, you need to find a player who can possibly be detached from Sam Darnold's production. And the reason AJ Barner has, at least in the small range of outcomes, the ability to detach from Sam Darnold's production is because he's the guy that gets the tush push. And there's at least a chance that he gets 1, maybe 2 rushing touchdowns with the tush push. And that's not Sam Darnold's stats anymore.
Well, that's also why his 2+ touchdown is like way lower than it should be in reality, right? Like AJ Barner's 2+ touchdown should be 40 or 50 to 1, but like the fact that he gets that opportunity even in a mythical world twice in a game is why this number is beat down so much.
Yeah, 100%. And let's bring up SharpStack here, where we can kind of compare at least anytime touchdown numbers. And that's one of the best parts about SharpStack is you can instantly compare prices across all the sports books in your state. So for 1 touchdown, AJ Barner's plus 240, Austin Hooper's plus 850, Hunter Henry down here is probably shorter or at least the same as AJ Barner, plus 230. So to me, I think Hunter Henry is probably should have longer odds to score 2+ touchdowns than AJ Barner because he's not a tush pusher. He's not the guy that has the chance to do that. So you're not getting some type of discount or you're not getting some type of amazing odds on AJ Barner at 22 to 1. The sportsbooks have baked that in. They understand the scenario. They understand his role in the offense. But I don't think that transferred to his Super Bowl MVP price of 175 to 1, especially when it's at least possible that his stats and touchdowns can be detached from Sam Darnold. He can get rushing touchdowns and take those touchdowns away from Sam Darnold in this game. So if you want a fun little crazy Super Bowl MVP long shot bet, it's AJ Barner for me. And I do want it on record, Matt, because you are right. Darnold MVP is a much better price and bet than Seahawks money line. I did bet Seahawks money line to win 1 unit. But the first thing I did when these markets opened was hammer Sam Darnold plus 175 Super Bowl MVP, and I put 4 units on that. So the price is not as good anymore, but we went through the exercise, and it seems like you and I have both landed on that plus 130 is still a good price on Sam Darnold for sure. So I got both in the account. I was heavier on the Sam Darnold MVP, but it seems like you agree that plus 130 is still a fine price on Sam Darnold.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And for transparency purposes here, and like, guys, I will build a, portfolio bets if I think that I'm going to be getting kind of the best of it somewhere along the way. And so I have a New England 5 to 1 to win the Super Bowl bet in my account. So basically what happened is I knew that I liked New England in their 2 games, right? Like, and so at that point, when we got kind of whittled down, I looked and I was like, okay, they're going to be probably 2 to 1 in the Super Bowl. Well, I'm going to get over double that on them if I like them here to kind of get this ticket right now. And then the Bo Nix stuff came out and all of that with the foot and the et cetera and all of that. So with that, I threw the 5 to 1 in there. I don't think they win the game. I liked the price on the ticket for what I thought that was going to happen. And so that's kind of a little insurance policy that's in there for me. But again, my heart, my mind, my everything, my soul is on Seattle in this game. And I think 4.5 again is a fair number. But Steven, what if people want to look at other ways that they can go about and trying to have some fun as we bet the Super Bowl on Sunday?
All right, let's get into some alt spreads here, Matt, and what's available. And we talked about the spread getting out to 4.5 right now. There was one shop that had an opener at 3.5 that got bet out immediately. It's come back a little bit once it touched 5. So we're kind of hanging out in this 4.5 to 1 range. But Circa does have some alt spreads here. If you're looking on the video side, the left-hand column is the Seattle alt spreads and the prices, New England on the right-hand side. So Seattle at Circa minus 10.5 is plus 225. Seattle minus 14.5 is plus 310. And then if you are interested in the Patriots pulling a monster upset in this game and betting some alts, you have some prices over there where you don't need them to cover as much as you would on the Seattle alt because Seattle is the favorite in this one. So what stands out to you here, if anything?
Yeah, I mean, if we're talking about how this game is won, I think it's either New England winning by a little or Seattle winning by a lot. And I think that those are the two scenarios that intrigue me. I mean, if I was going to place these, the -3.5 at nearly 3-1, or getting all the way out at 10.5 or 14.5, something like any of those is perfectly fine with me. Like I do believe in my mind of minds, and I'm willing to change by the next time we record on this, because we'll have, a week more to really break down these games, Stephen. But I think that it is a dirty, ugly, nasty game if New England wins, which kind of creates a market in which they win by a small margin. They get the extra turnover, they get the muffed punt instead, or they get the missed field goal, whatever it is that like helps them out. Or Drake May really struggles against this defense that can get pressure with 4, which means everybody's still back out there in coverage. And the Seattle team scores not every drive. I don't think that's the case. I do have some respect for this New England defense, but I think that Seattle's offense also has the ability to go and have at least 4 scoring drives in this game. And so with that, maybe New England only scores 10 points. Maybe they only score 13 points. And then we look up and this is a 13, 14, 15-point victory for Seattle without really even having to do all that much.
Yeah, I agree with that part, the latter. But we're early here. We have more than a week before the game, so there's not as many alts open yet at Circa. I'm gonna wait. And my main bet, if I had to call something my main bet in this game, it's that 4 units I put on Sam Darnold to win Super Bowl MVP.
Yeah.
Now I did grab that money line to win 1 unit on Seattle. But I will be taking that potential 1 unit win on Seattle and splitting that 1 unit into fractional bets on Seattle alts. And I'm going to wait to shop around to see how best to ladder that and how best to spread it. And I'll come back on next week's show and share with everybody how I laddered that, because I do think that a whole lot of different outcomes in terms of margin of victory here are in play for Seattle. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. It's happened a few times in Super Bowl past, but we also had a situation like last year where a dominant defensive line even blew out Patrick Mahomes. So I think that is very much in play here. I will say this, Matt, I'm sure it's the Super Bowl. There are surely some Patriots optimists out there. And the one concern I have is potential A-gap pressure on Sam Darnold. There have been times where the Seattle O-line has been a little shaky this year, and while the Patriots don't have great edge rushers, they do have 2 dominant interior defensive linemen in Christian Barmore and Milton Williams. That is the one thing in this game that has me concerned. I don't know if it's enough to sway me off my overall opinion of the Seahawks, but if you want to lean into some outlier events for the Patriots, I think that's how it gets there.
Barmore lived in the backfield against Denver, and Denver's offensive line is better than Seattle's offensive line. Barmore had a monster game against Denver. And yes, these are 2 beasts on the inside, which is also why the run defense is so incredibly good. And so, listen, I can talk myself into a couple of different scenarios of New England winning this game. And again, one of them is that Sam Darnold makes 2 mistakes, and 2 mistakes might be enough to sway the outcome of this game. And certainly those guys, I think, would be a part of that if we end up getting to that. Stephen, just for fun here, and we'll circle back to some other stuff for this game, but in the world of it's never too early in sports betting these days, we are already looking forward to what next year might look like. Now, we are still without some teams having head coaches, though. That being said, we are starting to fill those even as we speak here. Some of these things are getting filled. Some of the coordinator positions are getting filled out there. And, you start to look, and I think that, for the most part, Stephen, we kind of know at the top of the draft what's going to happen here. We know that Vegas, barring some sort of miracle trade offer, is going to take a quarterback and going to take Fernando Mendoza. It looks like the Jets are in a position where they're going to have to pass on a quarterback. And, just take one of the best defensive players available. They fortunately have a ton of draft picks for next year, so they will be able to get into the market to get one of those quarterbacks out of that class, which should be again, if things live up to, me and you are not talent evaluators or anything, but like, it should be one of the all-timer classes next year. I mean, like there is potential to have all kinds of craziness in that next year class. So, we at least know what these teams may or may not look like here. And so we look, and it's, as you would imagine, short shots going to be the teams that we have seen have a ton of success here this year. Seattle, the Rams, the Bills, the Patriots. Then we get to some of these teams that maybe underperformed a little bit. The Eagles, the Lions, the Packers. And then you get to teams with some unknowns where the Ravens have a coaching shift for the first time in 20 years. The Chargers going to bring in McDaniel to try to coordinate that offense and see if they can't drum up something with Herbert and have him really get to his ceiling, because kind of been fighting it with that offensive line and all of that. Then you get the Chiefs. Are they even going to have Mahomes at the beginning of the season? So we kind of hit that question mark phase there in the middle. And then you get the teams where the potential is there, but we just don't quite know what to do with them, Steven. So it's like the Broncos, the Texans, the Jags, the Bengals, the Bears. These are all teams that in some level have had some sort of success, but we don't know how often they're going to be able to replicate that in a over the course of an entire season. So it is kind of fascinating to look at these odds this far in advance.
It is. And one team still stands out to me, and it's the Kansas City Chiefs at 15-1. I can't remember the last time going into a season that the Chiefs were 15-1 or longer to win the Super Bowl, Matt. I mean, I know there's some unknown at the start of the year with Patrick Mahomes and his knee, but I love that they brought back Eric Bieniemy to be the OC, and Matt Nagy's out of there. They got a high draft pick coming in this year. They surely will address the offensive line. And the state of the AFC, I think, more importantly, is what intrigues me about that. I think the NFC is still going to be loaded next year. I mean, Seattle's doing this, and they're going to have a second-year receiver, Torrey Horton, who flashed this year, to add into the mix there. They could be even more explosive of an offense. May lose their offensive coordinator in Clint Kubiak, but we'll see. The Rams, I mean, they're going to have to, I think it was a one-year deal for Matthew Stafford.
We'll say the only thing that can flip that on its head is whether he retires or not. Like that, that could flip the entire situation for the Rams for sure.
Right. But I'm never betting any of these prices that are shorter than 10-1 this far out, because so much can change between now and then. But I can anchor in Patrick Mahomes, man. And the AFC to me looks far more wide open again next year than the NFC is. The NFC West is not going anywhere. Even if the Rams take a little bit of a step back, you could argue that the 49ers can take a step up just by being more healthy next year. And if we look at the 49ers, they finished third place in the division. So they're going to have another fairly easy schedule, you would think, by finishing third in that division this year. So those are the two teams that stood out to me, is the 49ers because they did so well with so many injuries this year, and the Chiefs because of the state of the AFC. So beyond that, man, it would probably be just maybe taking a flyer on somebody to come out of the NFC South and take a step up. You know, the Falcons at 80-1 at least have my attention, with Kevin Stefanski being the new head coach and him being able to do more with less in a couple of seasons with the Cleveland Browns. And we know that defense is loaded with talent, especially in the front seven and especially with a pass rush, even though they won't have a first-round pick this year.
Well, and we also know that once you get in the tournament, you never really know what can happen. I mean, we have a Super Bowl with the Patriots, right? The Patriots were able to run into a pretty nice path for them to get here, you know, and like, you never know. And like the Falcons, again, they just got to win that division. If they win the division, they're in the playoffs, and you never really know what could go on there. Yeah, I'm on the opposite side of you on both of those teams that you mentioned. I think this is where
Chiefs
the real decline for the Chiefs comes in. They're a very old team without any real playmakers. I don't think Mahomes is going to be there for the first 3 or 4 games of the year. Like, the most optimistic thing to come back from an ACL is 9 months. Like, that would put him like at week 1. And I mean, I'm not doubting Patrick Mahomes at all, but if you're the Chiefs, like, you're really going to rush this dude back out there, like, instead of giving the proper time for him to heal. Like, I'm, again, no doctor, but guessing it's more like week 3 or week 4. What does that look like? Are they already in a 1-2 deficit, or 1-3, or 0 and whatever? Who knows like what that could look like. And on the 49ers side of things, they won too many games to get an impact player at receiver, and their Ayuk is gone. Pearsall can't stay on the field. Kittle's career might be done. McCaffrey can't run the ball at all anymore. He's just basically a glorified receiver. And the defense is terrible. And so there's a whole lot I think that the 49ers are going to have to overcome to win a Super Bowl. Now they'll be in the mix again. Like, they're going to win enough games to at least have us talking about them. But again, just kind of like this, you just ran out of steam. You ran out of gas. You could only kind of sprinkle the pixie dust, I think, so far. And I think that's going to be the case again with them. Like, I'm more intrigued by teams like the Jags and the Bears and the Bengals and stuff like that, where it's like, again, if you look at the Bears, and I look at what Ben Johnson did in year 1, and now you get a complete off season to reassess what you did right and what you did wrong and all of that. Because remember, he was going into this blind. This is not a guy that had a head coaching resume or anything. And so now he has a season under his belt to figure out, oh, I should have done more of this. I should have done less of this. This is the tendency that I didn't realize, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's a young team. Offensive line is good. There's pieces on the defensive side. I think the Bears are super interesting. I think the Jags, in second year leap of Liam Cohen as well, could be super interesting. You get Travis Hunter back, who I assume is probably just going to play exclusively corner, considering you basically hit a jackpot with the trade for Jacoby Myers to go along with what Parker Washington turned into, and then you still have Brian Thomas. So, I mean, I think that they're super, super interesting. I kind of like those teams a little bit further down the board. I think that there is a chance that you could strike gold with one of those teams that has that starts with a 2, that starts with a 20.
Yeah, and there's 2 other teams I want to touch on here just based on what's happened so far in the offseason. And I'm not saying this is necessarily Super Bowl bets, but based on where the Super Bowl prices are now, it could be, derivatives when they pop up later in the offseason. The first is the Dallas Cowboys. I liked the hire they made at defensive coordinator to kind of take a disciple of Vic Fangio in the Philadelphia Eagles. And with the way that offense was cooking at various points in the season for the Dallas Cowboys, I'm not saying I want to bet them 35-1 to win the Super Bowl, but I think that division is there for the taking, and the Eagles won it by default this year. And they made, I have not seen an upgraded offensive coordinator for the Philadelphia Eagles. They're stuck with A.J. Brown. The cap situation with potentially trading him is a complete nightmare. Jalen Hurts, if he's not going to run the ball, I don't know what this offense is or can be. So I think that division is more open than people might think. The other team is the Tennessee Titans. Now, I don't know if I'm ready to go so far as to say that they're live to win that division, but replacing Brian Callahan with Robert Saleh, and Saleh now adding Brian Dable as the offensive coordinator to develop Cam Ward, that has my attention, Matt. I don't know what it is. I don't know if they're going to make the playoffs, but surely they're going to have a low win total, and maybe at least over a low win total could be interesting in Tennessee with that coaching staff there now.
Yeah, I think teams that I can just tell you I'm more likely to be bullish on than not, and teams that I'm more likely to be bearish on than not. Looking at this right here, I will be very bearish on the Bucs. It's just another year of them getting older, and it's an old team to begin with. And what are they going to do with Mike Evans? Are they really going to pay an old receiver and all of that? Like, I just don't know with all of that.
10th year in a row for Baker Mayfield and a new offensive coordinator, something like that. Crazy.
And so I'm going to be bearish on them. I'm going to be pretty bearish on the Vikings. I'm not a JJ McCarthy believer. I think that the NFL just might not be where I think he's probably have a long career as a great backup. I don't know if he's ever going to be a really good starter in this league. Super bearish on the Steelers because I have absolutely I do not believe Aaron Rodgers is coming back, and we've seen Mason Rudolph enough to know what Mason Rudolph is good at. Mason Rudolph's good enough to beat terrible teams, and that's it. He's not going to beat good teams. I'm bearish on them. I'm actually fairly bullish on the Giants. I think the Giants could be the interesting team of the year with the solid head coaching hire, the foundation that they have. You have a quarterback, a left tackle, and multiple playmakers and a defensive line. That is a very good starting point for any coach. And so I think the Giants are super, super interesting. Again, maybe not from a Super Bowl perspective, but like you said, maybe a division, maybe a win total, maybe an alt win total, and maybe a sprinkle here and there on some of the other stuff. So I kind of know the teams that I'm going to be bullish on, the teams I'm going to be bearish on. And it's interesting to me that you bring up the Falcons. I mean, I think you can make a case for any of the other teams in the NFC. If I don't like the Bucks, then I've got to like either the Panthers, Saints, or Falcons, right? And I think that any of those three teams are worth talking about. I think Shuck showed enough to show that he probably can play in this league, at least at a above replacement level. I think that, Bryce Young showed enough, at least again, that he's like above replacement level. And on the Falcon side of things, I mean, we'll see what Penix can look like when he comes back off injury, but I think he's probably above replacement level too. And that might be a good enough to win that division.
I don't know if Penix is above replacement level. That's what I was just about to say, is that if this is the Michael Penix experience again, I don't know if I'm buying back into this. I was actually very impressed with what Kirk Cousins looked like the second half of the season. So I would want Kirk Cousins or some kind of upgrade going into this year to kind of cement my opinion on that 80-1 possibly being value on the Falcons. If it's Michael Penix again, then I probably would slot the Saints ahead of them in that division, just because Shuck showed us something, and they should improve that roster going into this year with a really good offensive-minded head coach in Kellen Moore.
Just some general Super Bowl betting nuggets here, guys, as we get ready to close this thing out, which is, if you like the dog money line, you want to bet that earlier. If you like the favorite money line, you want to bet that a little bit later. If you like the unders on props, you want to wait on those. If you like the over on props, you're going to bet those early, because what we see is the casual bettors, and we've seen this like over the course of the last few years now that widespread sports, like they're much more involved in the spread and total and things like that than they were in years past, just on a week-to-week given basis. But this is where they really dig into the prop betting, because they're all going to Super Bowl parties. They're all hanging out with friends. They all have 2 weeks to go in and find something that they want to bet. And 8 times to 9 times out of 10, they don't want to bet. They don't want to root for a dude to fail. They want to root for a dude to succeed. And more times than not, we see all of these prop numbers rise: a yard, 2 yards, 3 yards, 4 yards. We have seen some of them run when a guy gets a little bit of steam heading into a thing. I've seen some of the super low totals will run 6 and 7 yards and stuff at a time on some of these guys. And so if you like any of those numbers, now is the time to bet the over on them. If you're waiting for unders, then wait. It's going to be hell to wait, but you got to keep waiting and wait until the casual money comes in. These numbers will get pushed up, and then you'll be able to come in on the under on a better number. These are general rules of thumb, Stephen. They've been tried and true for the last 20 years. I understand we're in a different era now of sports betting, and maybe we start to see a shift, but until I see it with my own eyes, that's how I'm going to operate heading into the prop season.
Already have one player prop example to drive your point home here. Our friends over at 4for4, who host us on the YouTube side of things and on the Twitter side of things, put out a release for a Super Bowl player prop already. Pull up SharpStack here. It was Drake May's rushing yards over. When they released this early in the week, it was over 33.5, maybe over 34.5. As we stand here now, almost 10 days out from the Super Bowl, or whatever it is at this point, 39.5 is a number at one spot, 36.5 at a couple of other spots, 37, 39, 39. So that has already been blasted. If you're interested in betting Drake May over rushing yards, just understand that you are already getting a far worse number than what it was early in the week, a couple days after the conference championship games.
I think the other thing that I want to kind of drive home here, to especially the loyal listeners over the course of the entire season, one, thank you. Do appreciate you guys being with us here throughout the course of the entire season. But also, if there was ever a week that you can just try and have some fun betting, I like try and hammer this home so much. Yes, you can make your sharp bets. If you love the Seattle at -4.5, that's fine. And definitely do that. If you love the over, love the under, that's perfectly fine as well. But if you want to go in and you want to get a little wacky and you want to have a little bit of fun on Super Bowl Sunday, it's your last chance to bet the NFL for a long time. Don't sit there and think that every single bet that you make has to be so positive EV, and I need to be able to explain sharply as to why I made this bet and all of that. Like, man, you're going to be sitting around with buddies, probably a couple of alcoholic beverages involved and all of that. Like, have some fun. And if you want to have some fun bets and you want to put together a same game parlay and you want to do all that stuff, like, this is the time to do it, because let me tell you, it's a long football season. In a month, you are going to miss it. We're going to be sitting here in March, and yeah, March Madness is certainly going to be rolling around, but we're going to be like, God, it'd be nice to have a football game to watch. It would certainly be great to have a football game to handicap right now. So don't miss out on your opportunity to have some fun this last Sunday of the year.
Let's do one wacky, wild Super Bowl prop example that we have. It's over at Circa Sports. I know a lot of you out there like to play squares, or somebody in your neighborhood or your friend group puts together a Super Bowl squares, but that's always a blind draw. I mean, you don't know what numbers you're going to get. You could get terrible numbers in that. Sportsbooks now will offer you squares with fixed odds on it, so you can pick what numbers you want. Circa's no different. So I put together a little example here. Circa does have some of this available. If we look at the money line and the total, the implied final score of the Super Bowl is Seattle 25.25 to New England 20.75. So 25.25 to 20.75. So if we look at some of the squares available at Circa around those numbers, Matt, let's just say it's 26-21. Seattle 6, New England 1 pays 80-1. I threw a couple bucks on that. Why not? Anything with a 0. If New England's going to end with 20 points or 10 points, something like that. 4-0 for Seattle is 30-1. Seattle 6, New England 0 is 35-1. Anything here catch your interest, my friend?
I mean, those are always fun. The ones that I like to do, and it's, again, like it's pizza money, but it's also super fun sweat, is I'll throw 4 or 5 exact scores into the account as well. Like I will throw 2 or 3 with the mindset that it's going to be a lower scoring game. I'll throw 2 or 3 in there while I think it's going to be a higher scoring game, because those pay a little bit better. Obviously, if you hang around where the total is and you hang around the implied totals, you're not going to get the payout that you're looking for. So I kind of go extreme one way, extreme the other way, and see if I can't have me a sweat coming into the fourth quarter. I think that is also a really fun way to just get some additional action on the game. And it's just a fun bet. Yes, you're guessing. You're not sitting there and you don't have this analytical approach to that bet. It's okay. Trust me, it's okay.
All right. So what are you thinking for maybe final score here? Throwing a couple bucks on. I said 25 and change to 20 and change is the implied final score here. You're looking 27-20, or do you think this is going to be wild and you're looking for like a 35-10 or something like that?
Well, that's kind of why I was looking here at, when I was talking about the thing that I kind of want to go for, and I want to go to the extremes, right? So I want it to be, like, a 17-10 game or something like that. And a 17-10 game pays 100-1. Because it's so far off of what the implied totals are in all of this. And then on the flip end, right? Like, let's go up and let's just say Seattle offense just absolutely humming, right? Like what's a 35-13 game or something like that, is going to be even more ridiculous. It's going to be 150, 160, 170 to 1. And so I think that those are all kind of like interesting ones to throw in there.
All right. So why don't we do a recap here? We got a couple minutes left, just whatever's in your account already. And then we'll do our full handicap of the game and our full betting cards. And obviously the full player prop catalog will be open at Circa Sports by the time we come on the air next week as well.
Yes. There's only one prop that we forbid you to make, we forbid you, and that is the coin toss. Unless it's a no juice bet. If they charge you juice on the coin toss, just turn to your guy that you're standing next to at the party and then flip a coin, and then y'all just bet there. Like, do not pay juice on the coin toss. That's the only one that I forbid you to bet. So do not do that. I'm on Seattle at 4.5. That's the bet that's in my account right now. Love Seattle in this game. I have the long-term kind of future there on New England, but that was just more of a me playing out a scenario in which I thought that was going to happen. But the game to me is Seattle, and I think they can win this thing handily.
Best available price is Sam Darnold plus 130 for Super Bowl MVP. Matt and I did the exercise earlier in the show that anything even money or better is probably a good price on Sam Darnold, considering they're, minus 235 in most of the market for him to win MVP. So that is a great bet for me. That's multiple units on him. I got a better number earlier in the week, but I love that. And yes, I did put a little bit of money on the money line for Seattle with the intention of betting some alts next week as well.
Thanks to our friends at 1041, 9:30 a.m. over in Bowling Green. Thanks to Circa, and thanks to our friends at SharpStack. For Steve and I, Matt, good luck on all your bets.